Report on NewsX World. Let's start with a check of the top headlines this hour. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says imposing tariffs on allies is wrong after President Trump threatens duties over Greenland. Trump plans 10% tariffs by February, rising to 25% by June. After Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz held a press conference as when confronted with the unreasonable US tariffs, the European Union is in a position to react. Taliban Interior Minister says several people were killed in a blast in Kabul's Sheher-e-Nau area. The area is home to foreigners and is considered one of the most secure in Kabul. Danish officials have decided to skip the World Economic Forum in Davos. This comes amid intensifying dispute over Greenland that's shaking transatlantic relations. UAE's President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed is in India for a brief but high-level meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The talks are likely to focus on India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership and the prevailing global issues. At least 39 people are killed after two trains collide near Cordoba in southern Spain. Over 70 are hospitalized as authorities launch an investigation into the cause. Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces say an armed group was attacking Shadadi prison in Hasaka in Syria's northeast, where it said thousands of Islamic State militants were being held. Novak Djokovic creates history, clinches 100 career wins at Australian Open at Melbourne Park as he beats Pedro Martinez in first round of 2026 Grand Slam. Alright viewers, we have some fresh news coming in from Afghanistan, where according to Taliban's Interior Ministry, an explosion has rocked Kabul, killing several people. The blast occurred in Sheher-e-Nau area, a district considered one of the most secure in the capital, home to foreign nationals. It's in fact breaking news information that we're bringing you. Preliminary reports suggest multiple fatalities and injuries, but further details are yet to be confirmed. The blast comes amid relative calm in Kabul, where such attacks have been rare since the Taliban took control in 2021. However, the threat of violence remains, with ISIL affiliates continuing to carry out sporadic assaults in the country. Alright, with that, we are now going to proceed to cover some news from the United Kingdom, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer has stated that a trade war is in no one's interest after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose tariffs on Britain and European countries over their support for Greenland's sovereignty. Starmer described the use of tariffs against allies as completely wrong and emphasized that alliances should be built on respect and partnership, not pressure. He urged Trump to seek a solution rooted in facts and mutual respect while committing to defend international law and the British people's security. The UK will continue dialogue with the US, but has made it clear it will not be forced to choose between its two closest allies, the US and Europe. Germany's Vice Chancellor said Europe is already considering countermeasures in response to Trump's blackmail, while the UK and the European Union have united in their response. Starmer said they are not yet considering retaliatory tariffs. Let's listen in.
A trade war is in no one's interest, and my job is always to act in the UK's national interest. That is why yesterday I spoke to President Trump, to European leaders, and to the Secretary General of NATO to find a solution rooted in partnership, facts, and mutual respect, because that is how strong alliances protect shared interests. Mature alliances are not about pretending differences don't exist. They are about addressing them directly, respectfully, and with a focus on results. On Greenland, the right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies. But there is a principle here that cannot be set aside because it goes to the heart of how stable and trusted international cooperation works. And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support that tariffs should not be used against allies in this way. In relation to the escalation, look, a tariff war is in nobody's interests, and we have not got to that stage, and my focus, therefore, is making sure we don't get to that stage, and that's what I'm doing at the moment.
In fact, viewers, after Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has also held a press conference where he said that when confronted with unreasonable US tariffs, the European Union is in a position to react. So a strong statement has come out from another European Union member state, Germany being the latest. Remember, French President Emmanuel Macron has also raised objections and asked for European Union members to come together and use the anti-coercion mechanism if needed. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that a trade war, of course, is in no one's interest. This, of course, was after Trump's threats to impose tariffs on Britain and European countries. Starmer described the use of these tariffs against allies as completely wrong, and he emphasized that alliances should be built on respect and partnership, not pressure. He urged Trump to seek a solution rooted in facts and mutual respect while committing to defend international law and British people's security. Meanwhile, important to note here that the European Union and the UK have united in their response, and Starmer said that they are not yet considering retaliatory tariffs. France, Germany and other Nordic countries, meanwhile, have already pledged support for Denmark. Some European leaders are arguing that increased military cooperation may be the answer. The European Union will reportedly hold an emergency meeting in the coming days to discuss Trump's latest tariff threats, and according to European Union officials, the leaders will meet in person later this week to explore potential retaliatory measures. Member states are considering various responses, including imposing levies on 93 billion euros worth of US goods. The decision is, of course, not taken lightly. European Union ambassadors have also met in Brussels, seeking to devise a joint response to Trump's announcement that he would impose 10% tariffs on 8 European countries as part of his demands over Greenland. European leaders are already echoing the sentiment that Trump's tariffs are incompatible with the EU-US trade agreement. In fact, I'd also like to quote what European Council President Antonio Costa said. He said that the European Union's support for Denmark and Greenland remains strong, posted on social media after the meeting, and reiterated that the European Union would remain united in defending Greenland's sovereignty. Now, joining me in this discussion is Dr. Satoru Nagao, who is fellow at the Hudson Institute of Tokyo. Thank you, Mr. Nagao, for joining us once again in this discussion. Firstly, how do you view the responses that are coming in from different European Union leaders and also from UK's Keir Starmer?
In this case, the perception gap exists between America and Europe. The current President Trump thinks Greenland is a part of the United States or the US influential area because a part of the American continent. That's why the European continue to stay in the American continent is violating the Donald Trump version of the Monroe Doctrine. So that's why Europeans should give the United States Greenland because this is part of the American continent. But view from the Europe, for a long time, the Greenland is a European island, and militarily, America has already got the right to use Greenland as a military base anytime. So that's why there is no something the European can give the United States now. So U.S. has already got everything they need, they believe. That's why this perception gap between America and Europe has happened. So, but currently, the U.S. president strategy is already set. So that's why there's a possibility U.S. will not back down in this case, and the European need to think something concision between the U.S. and Europe. But that is the current situation, even if the European side believe this is a little bit arrogant of the U.S. decision itself is arrogant European thing.
Sure. Dr. Nagao, now considering the fact that the US has a much stronger military as compared to the European Union, if it goes on to use retaliatory tariffs, how much do you think that could dent the United States economy?
This is not good for the trade, but currently world leaders for the priority is security, not economy. So that's why this is really happen. But U.S. use the tariff because they try to avoid the military conflict between U.S. and Europe. So that's why using the tariff means that not easy to escalate with the military conflict in this case. So that's why it is a little bit peaceful battle between the America and Europe. And militarily, it's a little bit controversial point is Europe rely on the United States, but U.S. Does not rely on Europe. So that's why in the negotiation of the military-related issue, U.S. has advantage in the negotiation. The European lacks the card to persuade the United States. So, view from the mood of the alliances between Europe and America, of course, this is not a good situation. But at the same time, which side has a more diplomatic card in this case is indeed the United States. Only one thing that we should not forget is the will of the people in Greenland. Because Europe and America both are negotiating above the will of the Greenland. So if these leaders will not respect the opinion of the people in Greenland, it will create another conflict between people in Greenland and these governments between America and Europe. So that's why finally the will of the Greenland, the people, is also important as an actor in the negotiation, I think.
All right, Dr. Nagao, thank you very much for your comments. Requested to stay on as we move. Viewers, a senior official in the Saudi-backed Yemeni government has stated that it will take all necessary measures against UAE and Yemen separatist STC forces in order to achieve justice for victims. This comes as Yemen's Saudi-backed Presidential Leadership Council earlier last week accepted the resignation of Prime Minister Salim bin Preek and appointed Foreign Minister Shayam Hussein al-Zindani as the country's new Prime Minister. Yemen has been a source of heightened tensions in recent months between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The main southern Yemeni separatist group, the STC or the Southern Transitional Council, which Saudi Arabia says is backed by the UAE, gained control of areas across southern and eastern Yemen in December, advancing to within reach of the Saudi border, which the kingdom considered a threat to its national security. Saudi-backed fighters have since largely retaken those areas. Request Dr. Nagao to join me back in this discussion. Dr. Nagao, how do you see Yemen acting in the face of this aggression between UAE and Saudi?
In this case, Saudi has the advantage in the negotiation. Originally, they are ally in the Yemen conflict, but now Saudi's support and UAE support, the different groups, they fought each other. But at the same time, the Saudi's backed side is winning. So that's, this means that diplomatically, the Saudi has advantage and US face a disadvantage situation in the negotiation. So finally, they can agree if the UAE side accepts Saudi's will. And so that is the only solution because of the military reality. Saudi is winning, I think.
All right, sure. Dr. Nagao, do you think that this benefits the Saudi and its leadership in any way?
Of course, Yemen's conflict is a conflict in Yemen, and so Saudi and UAE support the group, but not a perfect decision maker in this case. But at the same time, indeed, in the Sunni Arabs, both sides belong to the same side for a long time. So that's why, as a background reality, which need to face Syria or Iran or others, anyway, finally they need to agree, they understand, I think. So Saudi's leadership and UAE's leadership, if they understand such kind of background reality of the Sunni cooperation, there's a possibility they can agree.
All right. Thank you very much then, Dr. Nagao, for joining me in this discussion. And moving ahead, viewers, let's cover news from Japan, where Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has called for a snap general election set for February 8 after announcing plans to dissolve parliament on January 23. This marks her first electoral test since becoming the country's first female premier in October.
参総選挙によって令和8年度予算の年度内成立は極めて困難になるのではないかとも言われています。その影響を最小限にとどめるため、1月23日に衆議院を解散した後、1月27日に公示、2月8日の投開票のスケジュールとすることで、速やかに総選挙を実施する考えです。
Takaichi's key promise includes spending an 8% food for levy for 2 years to ease rising living costs. She assured the public that this measure will not be funded by new debt, but by reviewing existing subsidies. The move comes amid mounting public discontent over inflation, with opposition parties calling for tax cuts. A new political alliance has even proposed abolishing the food sales tax altogether. Takaichi's main challenge will come from the centrist Reform Alliance formed by the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan and Komito, which recently ended its coalition with the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Takaichi also signaled that defense spending will be a priority as Japan navigates growing security concerns in the region. I now welcome Srabani Roy Chaudhary, who is professor in Japanese studies at the Center for East Asian Studies, School of International Studies of JNU, in this discussion. Thank you very much for joining me in this discussion. Firstly, I'd like you to comment on the statement that had come from Takaichi earlier today after the announcement for the date of the snap election, when she says that she's put her own political future at stake to call for these snap elections. Do you think it's really risking her political future, or she's rather sure that she is going to return with her increased defense spendings and the right conservative stance that she has taken on from Shinzo Abe?
Thanks. Well, the snap election in Japan is nothing new. It does happen. This time especially so, it was important because she had a very bare minimum, number of seats in the lower house. It's 233, which is bare minimum, and therefore to negotiate the kind of policy that she wants to take with respect to aggressive physical policy as well as defense budget hike, she would need a solid lower house advantage, and that can only happen if she can get herself to and her party to get a good majority in the lower house. However, when she says that she's putting her own political career at stake, she is actually calling upon the individual citizens of Japan to rise to the occasion and vote with a fair, just mind, because as a woman, she anyway faces a kind of a pushback when it comes to being a leader of a political party as well as Prime Minister of Japan. However, between October and today, she has risen in ranks by proving herself to be very strong with the China crisis that happened, followed by the kind of meetings that she had with almost all the lead leaders in the world. She has come out with as a woman of substance, and I think that is why she's keen to go in for an election and have a good majority in place to do what she wants to do, because her moves are not going to be very centrist or very modulated to just taking care of the immediate, but she also has a strong future plan.
Professor Chaudhary, do you think she will be able to capitalize on the public support and deliver on her promises to better the economy, the cost of living, and tighten the immigration policy of Japan?
It's too early to talk about each of these three very, very important and yet very difficult sectors to navigate. However, as far as the economic aggressive fiscal policy that she's calling for, it would essentially be a burden on the citizens. So if she does get a majority, it means that they are going to be willing to support her fiscal taxation, etc. However, one must remember that Koimeto, which was a long-time partner of LDP, is now forming a coalition with Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, which is the lead opposition party. If you look at the current status of, if these two parties come together, they currently have 172 seats, and LDP and Japan Innovation Party, which is in coalition, has 233, which is bare minimum. So the vote margins are very little, and Koimeto has a very strong, committed voters. So all when she says that she's put her political career at stake, she is actually meaning this, that confirmed voters are much more in the other party, in the opposition coalition, rather than in this coalition.
How likely is it that a decisive victory will strengthen her hand within the LDP and reduce her alliance or dependence on other smaller parties?
You see, if we have a women prime minister in, say, India, we wouldn't have gone through the kind of, if you look at the media attention that went along in Japan because of a woman as a candidate and women as a prime minister. For them, it is really, really new to have a woman up there. While there was a lot of cheering that happened, but conservative and LDP wing within the LDP are definitely not very convinced about her leadership. So getting past the post in this particular snap election will play two parts. One is within the nation, she gains a huge credibility. Within LDP, people who are big critics of her or question her ability to do things because of a woman will have to receive those arguments.
All right, Professor Chaudhary, thank you very much then for joining me in this discussion. And now moving ahead, viewers, let's cover some news from Czech Republic, where a gun attack at the town hall in Sribiska, which is a small municipality in North Bohemia, has left one man dead and 6 people injured. As per reports, the attacker was shot and killed by police at the scene, with officers confirming there is no further danger to the public. The shooting took place inside the town hall building. Police said the situation was secured shortly after officers arrived and the building was evacuated. Among the injured are several people with gunshot wounds, including at least one woman in serious condition. Some reports suggest that one police officer was also injured during the incident. Prime Minister Andrej Babis expressed condolences to the victims' family and others affected. Speaking after a cabinet meeting, he described the shooting as a tragic event that had shocked the country. Also, some tragic news coming in from Pakistan, where a massive fire broke out at a sprawling shopping mall in Karachi. The death toll from this tragic incident has risen to 21 now, while over 65 people continue to remain missing. The blaze broke out late on Saturday at Gul Plaza, a large multi-story complex with around 1,200 shops. The shopping area spans an area larger than a football field in Karachi's historic center. Meanwhile, rescue workers have warned the public that the remaining structure has become highly unstable and weak and could collapse at any moment. Video footage of the incident show fierce flames rising from the building as firefighters worked through the night to put out the blaze. This massive fire at Gul Plaza could be Karachi's biggest fire since an industrial site went up in flames in 2012, killing more than 260 people. And that's all we have.